I'm the sports professor, Rick Horrow. Welcome to Beyond the Scoreboard, Inside the Mega Events. It's a trillion-dollar sports business, to be sure, and about 50 to 60% of those dollars are wrapped up in the mega events, the championships, Super Bowls, All-Star Games, World Series, Wimbledon, tennis majors, golf majors, NASCAR championships, IndyCar championships, Ryder Cup. All of those too numerous to mention. I'm in my office to kick off the show, but I'm not here a lot. I'll be on the road on a weekly basis to bring you the inside tips from those major events. The balance sheets, who wins, who loses, the interviews, how you put on the events, and how you sustain them. This is all brought to you by Edelman Financial.
Money doesn't come with instructions. That's why we created Edelman Financial Services to help you with everything from college and retirement planning to managing your investments, helping you achieve retirement security. We're among the nation's top financial advisors. Come see how we can help you.
Rick Horrow, welcome to Facebook, the weekly Inside Mega Events. It's sports, but this is much more than that. Remember, sports is a trillion-dollar business, but this is sports philanthropy, economy, higher education, youth education, all coming together in a scene basically set in Indiana and now Florida, the next act. In the next 20 minutes, you'll hear how sports was used initially through the vision of Dan Towers, Group 1001 and Guggenheim Life, to put together a golf event that was not like any other golf event. This one was primarily developed with a charitable perspective and basically fueled the engine for Indiana Women in Tech. You'll hear the mayor and one of the founders of the organization talk about how successful that has been. So successful, it's now being expanded into Florida in conjunction with a chairperson par excellence and Kaiser University with the watchful eye of the CFO of the state of Florida. So, having finished the Facebook Live, no, we will get into specifics now and talk about this. Dan Towers' vision is unparalleled. He started this with an idea of trying to make a social statement, but also doing great by doing good. You know, the sports business is a trillion-dollar sports business, and previously CEOs and others looked at philanthropy as a necessity, not as a benefit. It was, how do we do something because we're told to do it or we look bad by not doing it? Not necessarily ROI. Dan Towers took a different perspective. It was, let us develop a company that is known throughout the world for its various philanthropic efforts. First, women, kids, technology, STEM. We'll talk about all of that using sports as a platform to develop social good. I've been lucky enough to know Dan for a number of years. We started some of that in Indianapolis with the mayor, then expanded into Oklahoma with a Fields and Futures project in Oklahoma City. I'd like to take the opportunity for a minute to introduce some dignitaries here. John Doak, the Oklahoma Insurance Commissioner, Jim Donelon, the Insurance Commissioner from Louisiana, and Ken Selznick, the Commissioner in Kansas. I butchered it, I apologize. Ken?
Yes, Ken Seltzer.
That's close enough. I said Seltzer. That's exactly what I said, Seltzer. So, very well. Thank you very much. So, the idea of sports, philanthropy, economic development, everybody understands, but this is a working, breathing model here. And now, the latest figures all across the country show that philanthropy, broadly defined, has risen from 8% of the total sports business development budget in a trillion-dollar business to 12.2%. So somebody's doing something right. Dan Towers has taken the lead, and all of these people are following, and I'm excited about bringing this story to you with Facebook and our various media channels. Let's start first with, I guess, the political and entrepreneurial inspiration. I would say the grandfather of this effort, but let's just say the father of this effort. Mayor Greg Ballard was mayor from 2008 to 2015. It seems like only yesterday, but Greg Ballard was reelected by a large popular vote. I keep saying it's well over 80%. I'm not sure, but he did something right in the city of Indianapolis. One of the things he did was to reach out to, with Dan, and created an LPGA tournament, which then helped begat Women in Tech, which was kind of the inspiration to a lot of the discussion we're having here. Greg Ballard, tell the story.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. I really appreciate everybody being here today. It's a story that really starts about 7 years ago when I created the City Robotics Championship, kind of exploded. When I got done being the mayor, the state wanted to do something alongside of what we did in Indianapolis. And Dan Towers at that time had come to me. I was just done being the mayor, and he said, listen, I want to make a difference. What can we do to really kind of move the needle? That's really what the talk was about. And so I went back to a few weeks later, we discussed all of these things, and Women in Tech was what we came up with. We think there's a real, not just an equity issue, but there's also a numbers issue. There aren't enough people to fill the tech jobs of the future, and we need to get more young girls and more young women into those fields that actually fill the workforce needs. It's a workforce development issue on so many different levels. So that was really the genesis of this. Dan was right there, like I said, like Rick said, really the visionary to make sure all this works. We went in that direction. The first thing we did, we went to the state. The people helping the state run at the time, brand new state robotics championship, put some money down on that. Literally, we went from 73 elementary robotics teams. When we began, 2 years later, we had over 900. That's what happened. And it's still growing to this day because of the impetus of Guggenheim Life and Dan Towers and the Women in Tech organization. So that's what continues. We also do a STEM day for middle school girls. We also, at this point in time, are putting women through coding academies and some IT courses at a community college, and they're getting tremendous jobs out of that. Those are stories you can't believe. And it continues, and the LPGA tournament was something, it's called the Indy Women in Tech Championship. Makes a big difference in our city, really highlighted the need to put more women into tech. Really, that's what we've been doing. It's been a great effort by a lot of people. Guggenheim Life was obviously there from the very beginning. Dan was right there leading the charge, and it's been tremendous ever since.
Public-private partnerships are always, as Jimmy, you know, very important in putting together deals. It takes the visionary private sector, we'll talk about that in a minute, but it also takes the sustained and significant and consistent political leadership of those who are at the highest level of city and government, the mayor, but others as well. During your tenure, as you saw this grow, you certainly had the mandate to help influence policy, but did you see this catching on, and how has it caught on from like beginning to today?
Yeah, actually, I think we kind of caught a tiger by the tail. I think the pent-up demand was there. It came along at the right time, but it was important that you have the right inputs at the right time also to do this explosion, and that's where Dan and the Indy Women in Tech and Guggenheim and Group 1001 came together. Because at that particular time when the state tournament needed something and this effort needed something, this Indy Women in Tech was there, and that's why this exploded so fast. It was the partnership between the state and obviously what I had been doing, and then Dan Towers provided that spark, the vision to make sure it all happened.
So you needed the vision, you needed the mandate, but you also needed the glue. You needed the people to actually help put the deal together. Enter Judy Didon, who has been the kind of tireless person that has sustained and now can tell the story about expanding this beyond Indiana. She graduated summa cum laude from Indiana Wesleyan. I don't think there's anything better, and obviously the leadership, Indiana Foundation, and all of the local work that somebody that is committed to a community can possibly do. So Judy, talk a little bit about the details of IWIT, as it's called, the Indy Women in Tech, and how the idea grew to expand into South Florida.
Thanks, Rick. Well, honestly, I can tell you that really it truly is. It comes down to the impact that we're making, and we are truly changing lives. In Indiana, in 2 years, can you imagine, just 2 years ago, when we formed the organization, through each of our different initiatives, we have impacted over 18,000 lives. From students, as Mayor was talking about, through robotics, we've impacted over 1,700 kids who are now on robotics teams across the state. We, through our middle school program, have affected 1,200 girls who have learned through hands-on experiences that they are successful in STEM and that they can do it. We've also introduced them to role models who have walked alongside them, giving them a higher vision and a greater vision for their futures. And then, of course, the heart of what we do in Indiana is provide the scholarships for women, any woman, adult woman who wants to get trained for a career in tech. And then through that, we know that we have a winning model and it's replicable. And today in Florida, we are so excited to announce our expansion. And where are we starting? We're starting with the kids, because we know that the kids are where our future is, and they deserve these opportunities that we can bring. So,
Great, and we'll hand the baton literally in a minute. But as far as the Kids in STEM program and the Ignite Your Superpower of STEM Day, all of those issues, you've done a brilliant job of seeing the vision and expanding it. When did you first, over the last couple of years, think, boy, this is not only important here, but is replicable?
well, I think that, you know what, you can look at economics, and this is truly an economic development issue. It's about our workforce, and we can know that in Indiana alone, over 10,000 jobs will be coming to Indiana. And if you talk with organizations, people don't have the talent, and we need to address the talent pipeline. And getting kids in STEM today will help fuel the pipeline for our future.
So the transition is, maybe you call it officially past. Sharma Shacknow received a BA from Brandeis, but has been a member of the bar in many states, certainly 4, and a practicing attorney, but understanding that she puts philanthropy and charity first. Sharma Shacknow is the chairperson of this effort as it's come to Florida. So Sharma, why STEM and why now?
Thank you, Rick. I'm really excited to be chairing the Kids in STEM program as we move into Florida. I think it's so important for Florida to get involved in this project. I mean, Florida traditionally has been a very service economy, and we've been underrepresented in the STEM field for quite some time. I believe statistically there have been 270,000 job postings currently in Florida, and 70,000 of those are in the STEM-related field. So the time is now for kids to get involved in STEM and to pursue those careers. We've been partnering with different organizations locally to try to make this a reality. One was Boys and Girls Club and Kaiser University, and also we were working with VEX representatives to put robotics in the schools. So initially we're going to be having a two-pronged approach as we bring this new program into Florida. One is actually putting robotics programs in the schools, because we have learned through Indiana and through research that it provides so much more than just giving kids a STEM background. It instills creativity, gives them teamwork, collaboration, and they can take that in so many different levels as they move forward. Secondly, we're going to have a STEM day next fall at Kaiser University. It's going to be called Ignite Your Superpower Day. We'll bring in exhibitors from different industries, locally, and have them put on programs, and kids will come in for a fun-filled day to see STEM in action. And so we're really very excited about working on all these efforts.
So Sharma, you're a very busy lady, and I've seen your work all over South Florida in a number of different contexts. You could have done anything with your time, and you do. You have a family foundation that you work with very significantly. This STEM program, I assume, for you is based on a calculation that you could do more good in a shorter period of time with greater resources than almost anything else out there, or you wouldn't be there. But talk about that a little bit.
Certainly. I just think it's so important. The future is STEM. I mean, as the world changes and everything becomes more technology-oriented, we have to provide the manpower and the women power to fuel that. And if we don't get on the bandwagon now, I think Florida and the U.S. economy as a whole is going to be behind the 8 ball. So I think it's just essential that we start this today and going forward. It's just so important for all of us.
And of course, Sharma has talked about the transition in some of the people that are going to be involved in this through the calendar year and beyond. And Gary Vonk is one of the most entrepreneurial, if not the most entrepreneurial vice chancellors or people who run universities that I've ever seen. He's been 30 years in turnaround management as CEO, president, senior executive for a half dozen public or private companies. And he certainly has lent his expertise to Kaiser University. A lot of context. The sports programs here are second to none in a short period of time, and he is putting the same effort in embracing this, not only because the start in sports, what it could do, but separately the economic, the philanthropic part of this as well. So an honor to share the stage with you, talk about why you're doing this.
Thanks, Rick. Probably the most important thing to any educational institution is the opportunity we have to transform people's lives. And we talk about this on a very regular basis about how transformation takes place not just in the classroom amongst the students, but all of us are transformed as this journey takes place. And so when this opportunity came up and Sharma approached me and said, what can we do? There's no greater fit in this state than Kaiser University, with 20 campuses in most, if not all, of the major cities, 20,000 students, and a concentration on STEM programs now. We have 70% of our students are currently in STEM programs, most of them allied health or health related, but focused on those programs that really do enhance their opportunity for education to translate into workforce. And so it was an easy match for us, and Sharma and I have talked many times about how changing the lives of the youth of this today will help and translate into changing the lives of them when they grow up. The statistics say 50% of the jobs that are out there today won't be around in 30 years. So something will replace those 50% of those jobs. And in that period of time, those 30 years, these kids that are born today will be 30, and what will they be doing that we don't know about? So preparing them for that future is a critical part of what the kids in STEM program and the program we've talked about. So thank you.
I want to tell you that we have another announcement today. Gary Vonk, in his own personal account, has patented the Kaiser roll, ladies and gentlemen. So, and all of the revenue that is generated from the Kaiser roll goes directly into Gary Vonk's personal account. I just want to tell you, I'm very excited to be an unwitting revenue sharing participant of his. And I really, there it is right there, and it'll probably move. And I really, it's a hockey, it's going to be the launching hockey puck for your hockey program here too. I want to link it back to sports only in this way. You've grown your programs, your facilities, your national championship wrestling team, all of your programs in an unprecedented way with a significant risk, but understanding that in many ways the sports department or the sports areas are the front porch of the university and can cause the university to do certain things that it might not otherwise do, maybe to have more visibility for programs like this and otherwise. Just talk a little bit about the role of sports and how it might be synergistic to what we're doing here.
Well, Rick, it's not surprising that sports drives personal performance. It drives the skills that people will need in the workforce. It drives the ability to be a leader. It drives the ability to be part of a team, to focus on the goals ahead. And so athletics and this program are very, very synergistic to each other. And what happens within the confines of an athletic team is much of what happens in a company today. So when you look at entrepreneurs that build their business, they look for those people who are doing the blocking and tackling, those people who really do go out there, go deep and go far and make that touchdown, and the ones that support all along the way. So it's not simply about athletics, it's about athletics combined with an extraordinary academic program. Because when you build a group of people who are athletically driven, you build a team of people that will go out in the community and make a difference. And that's what we do.
Thank you very much, and obviously look forward to some very successful days and years for Kaiser ahead. Jimmy Petronas, the CFO of the state of Florida, after 8 years representing Panama City in the Florida House, and I just have a confession to make. Gary Vonk is donating the first 10% of the Kaiser roll revenues to the state of Florida in the proceeds, okay? So that's an official statement that everybody can take to the bank. In all seriousness, thank you for being here, and thank you for what you represent, because when you think about the CFO of the state and fiscal responsibility, training kids using sports as a platform to expand the horizons of all of that. Stuff that may not appear initially on a balance sheet because it is inherently philanthropic, but has so many side benefits. Important to the state, I assume important to you. Talk about that a little bit. Sure.
Thanks, Rick, and I don't know if you've got a future in comedy, but I think you ought to stay right where you're at.
Can I change my vote?
Too late. But no, to save that role, I'll have it later.
It's going to roll away.
But you hit on something with our kids. So when I was in the legislature 2 years in a row, I ran legislation to expand physical literacy in the classroom. And it's so critical that our youth understand the importance of balancing the checkbook. And as we find some challenges, there's so many great free curriculums out there that exist. But as we go and we try to embrace and encourage this important component of business skills as early as possible, I applaud the efforts of what we're going to do to try to bring this to light at the youth. But I mean, I'm going to reflect a little bit on what I've done over the past year. And we ran a statewide campaign in a state where we gathered over 4 million votes. But my entire leadership team in the campaign, they were all women. The whole entire success of what we did in order to encourage the citizens of the state of Florida to support what we were doing, those decisions, that guidance, the platform, the messaging, and the direction was by a team of women that I wouldn't be here before you today, but wasn't for. So as I reflect on my family business, that's all of our management team is all women. So at the restaurant, that's kind of, I know where success lies, and success lies in that, but when we look at there's less than 20% of the technological workforce is male women, that's an unacceptable figure. And as we are trying to work and promote, and especially try to encourage as much flexibility into those industries and those trades, and especially those tech STEM related jobs, those flexibilities will give opportunity where we can change that demographic.
One more follow-up for you, and it is significant, I think, that in many states, the key to the next office, just saying, the key to the next office has been somebody who has a solid financial background, worked a lot in Arizona, where Doug Ducey, the governor, was the treasurer for years, and you, now the CFO, so we're not going to ask you political aspirations, you just got here. But the point is that you're in an arms race. Florida's in an arms race. Now, it's not just tourism states anymore. You look at states that are trying to get ahead, and they want to steal our assets by stealing the training of the next generation of workforce, so corporate headquarters can make enlightened decisions as to where to go, including sporting events, including facilities, but programs that can kind of combine sports things with tech things and training things. I guess that's a home run. Absolutely.
Well, I think the world of the state of Indiana and the accomplishments there. But you know what? We don't have snow. That is such an incredible, natural element of our, chemistry here that just doesn't exist. So, but as we do try to say, I'm a graduate of Florida State University, and I was talking to some friends who were walking in, and we were just look. I'm down because of our athletic season this past year of football, and then I look at the ripple effect that it has to just the economy of our university, and winning programs generate winning economies, and when you have winning economies, the waiting list of students that want to have winning universities, the waiting list of students, you get to turn away, you get to pick from the cream of the crop, because everybody wants to be in a program with a winning athletic program. So making those investments and making your athletic programs the stars, they're not just incredibly great marketing tools, but they also give you, the best students that the community can bring together, the nation can bring together.
I will say, parenthetically, when you look at elected or high-level appointed officials in the room, you've got a guy from Indiana, and he's not smiling very much after the football season. You've got a guy from Kansas not smiling a lot. Louisiana, not sure whether he wants to smile or not. Oklahoma, absolutely smiling, and that guy hasn't smiled since election night, I want to tell you that. So here's the bottom line of all of this. Is that better? We're better now? Yeah. And by the way, about snow or not snow, it's like 18 degrees in Panama City last night, so just be careful. So here's the bottom line of all of this. This is an important, very important effort for the state of Indiana that founded much of this, but maybe even more important, the state of Florida under Sharma and Gary Vonck's leadership will take the next step with kids in STEM and help from the sports platform, sports, economic development, tech, workforce training, it all goes hand in hand. Would like to thank Greg, Jody, Sharma, Gary, and Mr. CFO, the Honorable. Jimmy's just fine, that's what Jimmy's going to be. Thank you all very much for doing this. Rick Horrow, sports professor, speaking of the